Uh, Thank you. We're really, really ant. Go share it with your go send that video to your uncle who called you stupid for saying that masks don't work.
Send it to all your Democrat friends and family, because that's
Every
right.
That's what you pour out.
Got it. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is a bit different.
The WEF is rolling in their grave right now. Well, they're not dead, but they. So we posted a video, by the way, a while back, probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when the WEF was in full swing, and they were saying that coffee isn't for closers; it's actually for it causes climate change, and coffee is destroying the planet.
Yep. And
Yeah.
it causes too much CO2 for every ton of coffee made. So, therefore, we can't drink coffee anymore.
And they
Also,
had to
rice.
fly on their jets to Davos to tell us that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they said rice.
And they had to
Too,
pay
you said?
rice. Yeah, rice is bad for us now too. Well, not bad for us, but bad for the climate.
So was that like an attack on Asian countries?
I think that was attack on. Well, rice, I think, is the most uh, grown thing. I think, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, as far as I think it's rice and coffee are the two main ones. But I know rice keeps billions of people alive, especially in
Mhm.
Southeast Asia. They eat it every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the WF is strategically going after some kind of minuscule things to us in the West. But if you've ever traveled overseas, like I've been to Asia and I've been to South America, and coffee in South America is number one, it's really, really good. But number two, it's everywhere, right? People have built whole economies off it, and coffee um, and rice in Asia is like that's like their biggest thing besides iPhones.
Besides child labor.
Yeah. Well, they don't really use the iPhones. The iPhones are all used by us here in the U.S.
Mhm.
Having an
Yeah,
iPhone
that's true.
anywhere else, especially when you go to places like Southeast Asia, Bali, Thailand, whatever. If you have an iPhone, like you're sitting pretty. People
Mhm,
with Androids look at you like,
mhm,
all right, he has money.
mhm,
So it's like a status symbol.
mhm. It is for sure a status symbol. What are some other status symbols that we take granted for every day that most people in the rest of the world don't have or use or have even a concept for?
I've seen
Maybe this live
a lot
should
of
be
people
about how
on like,
great we have it in America, because we have it pretty freaking amazing.
yeah. No, I was thinking about this yesterday actually because I hate like suburban lifestyle where all the houses look the same and you have no backyard. I hate that. But I was thinking about how I saw this TikTok and now I get them on my feed like all the time now, of people in other countries dreaming about living in American suburbia because it's so idyllic and it looks so perfect and happy and there's families and grass and blue skies and yeah,
Yeah, well,
take that for granted, I guess.
there's always this fine line that people walk between chaos and complacency, where you want just enough of each, but not too much of one or the other. So, if you're living in, again, just to use Southeast Asia, because we're already talking about it, right? A lot of huts, a lot of dirt, a lot of rain, monsoons. You don't really know what's going to happen compared to somewhere like Southern California in the suburbs of Southern California where the weather is always the same. So you don't have to worry about what's going to happen the next day. But then
Mhm.
when you live in that area, you want adventure and wildness. So
Yeah.
uh, people always want different things.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's because people don't, or they want what they don't have right now?
I think it's because people are always looking for adventure, but with adventure comes danger. So there's only so much amounts of danger that you should take. So I actually thought about this really deeply a few months ago, and it's going to be in my book that I have coming out at some point in the future. Who knows where, when? But it's going to be called "The Little Book of Big Thoughts." But the book is big, and the thoughts are very little, but they're deep. And as basically what I was thinking of was, you know, girls like bad boys, right? That's the whole that's the whole like girls like bad boys, but boys don't like bad girls. And I was thinking about that. And obviously, when you're younger, you take a lot more chances because you don't understand danger. So you're still learning, like a kid who puts his hand in the fire. You want to experience that. And once you've experienced it enough, it becomes a matter of will I survive long enough to do what I need to do in life if I keep doing these things? And then you become less averse to danger because you've already experienced it. So you're like, okay, I know what that is. Um, but every so often, you want to experience that just to feel alive and to feel like, you know, you feel like you're in your primal state. So that's why you go out on the weekends. That's why you go on vacations. That's why you do stuff on the sporadic. When you go see something that you want and you can't afford it, you just buy it because you want to. That's a way of like experiencing that. So that's kind of my thought pattern on that. I don't want to give everything away. You got to buy the book, but the book that doesn't
Can't wait
exist
to
yet.
read it.
Yeah.
Get writing.
Yeah, I think that you're probably right, and maybe I'm riffing on something that I am reading into, but one of the things that I've noticed is when you break through like a fear or something that's holding you back, you find a lot more freedom on the other side of that, right? Here's a weird example, but for a long time I was really scared of the ocean, right? And it was kind of like a really dumb fear. But this last year I was traveling overseas, and we had the opportunity to go diving. And so I just said, like, screw it. Like, I'm just gonna hop in the water and go diving and see what I can go see. And I kept pushing myself a little bit farther. So I was going 10 feet deep, then 20 feet deep, then 30 feet deep. And this was free diving, right, on one breath. And then at the end of it, like, I was going like 40, 50 feet deep on one breath, just after like a week of doing this free diving. And it just felt so cool and freeing that I could actually go ahead and do something like that, just like press through the fear and get after it.
Yeah, it's exhilarating.
Mhm.
Diving is fun. Have you been like scuba diving, like with a tank and all that?
Yes. So I'm halfway through my scuba certification, and I think on my next trip to Florida, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna be in Costa Rica this year, and we're gonna do a lot of diving over there. So actually got to get it before we go on that trip. But yeah,
Sweet.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Fun time.
Yeah.
By the way, we have some conferences coming up. If anybody is going to be at those, we have the Replatform conference, which
March 8th
I
to
think is going to
10th
be freaking amazing. And then
in
the
Vegas.
Reawakened, yeah, it's going to be in Vegas. And then the Reawakened tour, part of the team is going to go to that one's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I think.
Yep.
And then potentially we're going to be at CPAC. We're going to try to go to the Turning Point Action one. I think it's in Wisconsin, or maybe it's in Michigan.
When is
But we're going to try to beat a lot of the
Is that one?
conferences. What?
when is that one? Turning
That
Point
one
Action?
is, I think it's in the summer. Normally it's in July.
Oh.
Um,
Oh, like SAS?
yeah. So SAS for Turning Point. So I went to the one in Palm Beach last year, and it was like SAS and then Turning Point Action. So I didn't really want to go to SAS because all the younger younger kids, and I'm 30, so I was just like, this is gonna be weird. Like, but yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna be in July again,
Okay.
which is gonna be super fun.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. So I guess people are going to have to flip coins to see who gets to go to Tulsa and who gets to go to Vegas. Because we only have so many tickets available for each.
Oh man, I know.
But yeah, the Replatform conference should be really good. So should the other ones.
Mhm.
So it's not going to be bad to go either one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the
I don't know if I
conferences
can-
have unlocked like a lot for us. Like, we get to meet everybody, we get to say hi to some fans and some followers, and also get around people who are bigger and doing bigger things and inspiring. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't
Imagine Breakaway
know if I can join you
podcasting
guys
live
at
at a
either of
conference.
them, but I'll try.
Oh, you got to come. We're gonna pin David's comment here.
Well, that's actually one of something that we're planning. So I don't
Mhm.
know if you knew that already or if you just wanted to give a little Easter egg out, but yes, we will be live streaming from these conferences, the ones that we have a table at. So we actually will have a table at Replatform in Vegas, March 8th to 10th. So if you're there, show up. We're gonna have the CEO on and interview him about the conference, because what they're doing is really good. They're basically taking a bunch of people who are in the industry who were deplatformed, like literally had their bank accounts closed because of what they did or said that wasn't basically they didn't play nice, and for no nefarious reasons. They just were censored. So they are combining, or they're connecting them with merchants and banks, people who are going to re-platform them. So that's what the conference is about.
I can't wait for that. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's going to be amazing. So let's talk about some current events and all this kind of stuff. There is a pushback right now online, and the left is starting to see that we're calling out Taylor Swift for the psyop that she is. There's a whole bunch of videos I've seen today about how the NFL is rigged and they're going to rig it so that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl so that they can get this whole media empire and get all this media attention on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Fabian, I know that you've talked about them potentially running for office someday for president, which I think is kind of crazy, but we've seen some crazier things. But there's been a whole bunch of news articles that I've seen floating around Twitter, and essentially what it's saying is that the right is bringing up this conspiracy theory about Taylor Swift, and they're trying to basically like attack what we're saying, because I think this is one of the ways that we've preempted what the left's attacks is by talking about it before it happens.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna rig the Super Bowl. I don't know if I'm on board with that one. I mean, maybe I don't
Really,
know,
as a
maybe.
conspiracy theorist, you don't
You
as
don't know. That was
Instagram's
hard
number
for me.
one.
I mean,
Either way, I like I talked about this yesterday. I think it was yesterday. But with Vivek really starting this new way, this new playbook of telling people what the left is going to do before they do it. So you take all the air out of the balloon. So when they do it, you go, look, that's exactly what I told you they were going to do. And they hate that, right? They hate, I mean, people on both sides, they hate doing what people say that they're going to do, because then
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I can figure you out. So if you're calling this out beforehand, just like he called out Nikki Haley and Reid Hoffman being her chief funder, he hated that, right? These people like to operate inside the shadows. They don't want to be in the front. That's the whole point, right? But when you expose them as who they are and you bring them up into the forefront, then everyone knows and everyone can ridicule them. Just like Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, who was supposed to be the next, fear mongerer, the protege to what his dad has done. Turns out the guy's a bumbling idiot. Cannot speak. Like, I'm not even telling. He cannot speak, and this is the guy we're supposed to be afraid of. So the more that we expose these people and we bring that to light on places like X where we don't have any censorship, the more the world can wake up and say, these aren't some scary, like, oh my gosh, like Klaus Schwab is a lizard man who's a half reptilian. Like, he's an old fart who lives in Germany, drinks coffee every morning, he wakes up and he's like, eats the bugs, and he tries to figure out how to make us do what he wants to do. Like, these aren't, like, for instance, Bohemian Grove, and I'm going on a random tangent now, but you guys kind of got the wheels turning. Bohemian Grove, the way I think about it, it's a bunch of old dorky guys who are dancing around dressed like retards. And by the way, we are bringing that word retard back. Dressed like retards around a fire. Like, if I showed up there, I'm like, what the hell are these people doing? These are the cool people. These are the people who run the world. Like, it's just so stupid. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with this, but yes, Vivek started talking about things before they happened, and they hate that. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me ask you this though, because this strategy could work really, really well. But if we get too good at calling it out before it happens, and then it doesn't happen because we're calling it out, the left could say, oh, these guys are just really, really weird people who say things that aren't going to happen. Like,
I mean,
that's
they
how
already
they could
do that.
flip it on us, right? Because like a couple months
Well, if the point is for them
ago,
not
they
to do
were-
it, if the point is for them not to do it, then it's okay if they call us out, because it's like, okay, you still didn't do it.
Mhm.
What's up, David?
What's up?
Hey.
Came at the perfect
Hey.
time.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, we're talking about Taylor Swift. Really exciting stuff.
well, no, I think the bigger conversation is like calling it out before it actually happens, right? And how do we continue to make relevant claims, right? Because I can see people just like grabbing this and then going off in like left field, right?
Good.
And just saying like crazy
Good.
stuff is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, so just it's good. I think that's good because then people that listen to it will start investigating how could they possibly like what would they have to do if they wanted to do this,
Mhm.
and then they would just dissect that all the way back. You know, people on Reddit, you know, people on X. These people are the most investigative journalists I've seen in my life. They can figure anything out. They literally do figure out crimes and they solve cold mysteries or cold like murder cases online on Facebook groups, right?
Mhm.
So if we can dissect everything they're doing, it makes them not want to do that. So if our job is to make these retards, I'm going to keep using that word because that's just if our job is to make them stay in their lane,
Yeah.
then we got to say, yep, you're going to do this and this, and they won't want to do any of those. So they'll
Right.
stay in their lane.
Interesting.
I feel like kind of like to bring in like predictive program into here a little bit. I almost feel like that's what they want you to do, like to call them out on it, and then they'll just start to normalize all this stuff, right? In terms of like, okay, I'm trying to like put it two and two together, but okay, we know that they're essentially pushing a conspiracy, and then they start to normalize it. Is that like some backlash to us essentially? I don't think that made any sense now that I think about it. But okay, so like you guys are talking about us calling them out about them having these plans and doing these
Right.
things behind the scenes, and it's like you were saying, is that what they want us to do so they can just start to normalize this stuff all the time? Like I don't know.
Well, I think they have a plan A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah.
I've always said this, right? I believe the first plan was to test. So for the general election, I believe the first plan was to test Michelle Obama popularity and then Gavin Newsom's popularity. He literally had a debate with Ron DeSantis, which is
It was weird.
completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. So they figured out Gavin Newsom didn't have the support that they needed. So next up, all right, Nikki Haley, plan B. Let's try to push her and push her. Reid Hoffman got exposed. She got exposed. So that's falling to the wayside. Okay, now what's plan C? Plan C was probably plan B or C was to get Trump off the ballot with all these things happening. It didn't work. So now what's plan D? So they're on to plan D now. So the more that we can figure out what they're going to do and talk about it, it ruins that plan. So how many layers deep do they have this thing rigged? Is a nuclear option this thing where we have so many people come across the border that they push this civil war, that they want Texas to get involved and fight against the federal government, say it's martial law, and they cancel the election? Is that the nuclear option? I mean, what else? If your goal is you cannot have Donald Trump as president, you cannot have it by whatever means necessary. How far are you willing to go to make sure that doesn't happen?
Do you think whoever is like making these plans and everything, is that the deep state, or is this just the establishment? Is there really a difference between the two?
I think it's the same.
The
Deep
same.
state establishment, yeah.
So do you like who are these people then?
From what I've gathered, there's about 13 bloodlines, and they kind of
All
puppet master everything. But you'll never hear like most of their names. They're just in the back financing everything, and then they have their
Like the
people out
Pacers.
Yes.
Ooh. We're
Look,
gonna
so
get
if you've
canceled for
heard,
that
yeah,
one.
you know what?
You
I don't
cannot
care.
talk about
Listen,
the Pacers.
there are a bunch of old farts sitting in a room doing nothing, probably with high blood pressure. Like, I don't care. They're just old farts that are just calling people and say, hey, do this for money. That's all it is. It's not that complicated. Like, guys, it's not that complicated. People need to make money. They need to make a life for themselves as a family, or they're just sadistic and they want power and control. You can easily use these people by giving them the one thing that they're looking for all day long, which is money, 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 money. And then you sit in a room, all these old farts, the Pacers, you name it, and they say, go do this. But if someone just said no, like the way a parent says no to a child, no, just like I have a Twitter post that it says, start saying no to these stupid retard
Yeah.
leftists. No, that's the worst thing they want. They need validation from people. That's how they get their self-worth. They need you to accept my pronouns. It has nothing to do with you living your life. But my only job is to get you to acknowledge me, because I feel as a leftist that I'm an outcast. So if you, the cool people, can acknowledge me, then I win. So
Well,
don't
here's-
acknowledge them and just say no.
Here's a perfect example of someone saying no recently. and then nothing happens, right? Greg Abbott was like, come and take it. Like, come try and go snip the wire. Like, do it. I dare you. And you know what the Biden administration did? They did nothing. They shifted from Texas to now they want to go attack Iran. That's what they did, right? That's really what happened. Like, Greg Abbott was like, he said no. He said bet. He's like, come try and do this, and nothing happened. So you're 1,000% correct on that.
Yeah. Just say, look at Dare. Remember Dare to keep the kids off drugs? They had the best slogan. Just say no. You need to call me by my pronouns. No. Excuse me? No. Like you're gonna say no enough times so that they can stop. So one thing that I always do when people try to get mad at me is I just don't respond. And that's the best thing for me, but the worst thing when they're trying to fight with me, because if I don't give you something to respond to, you have no validation to keep speaking to me, and then you just look like a weirdo. Like if I'm screaming at you and you look at me and you kind of laugh and you look away, and I'm trying to get your attention. Now I'm the person who looks weird because I'm trying to get your attention, and you're brushing me off. It's just like a guy going after a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the power and who's chasing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so good, man. That's so good. Just say no. Instead of don't say gay, it's just say no.
Just
saying yes is retarded.
Speaking of retard and everything, I saw that on Twitter today that there's like a huge uptake of the use retarded, right? Or is it might have been the word faggot?
Because we're bringing it back, baby. We're bringing back gay. We're bringing back retarded. We're bringing back faggot. We're bringing back all of it.
And it doesn't mean anything mean to the people who actually have certain types of like physical things that have happened to them. It had nothing to do with that.
Have you guys seen The Circle? The movie The Circle, not the TV show, with
No.
Emma Watson. Oh, everyone needs to watch The Circle. It's creepy. It's creepy because it's like happening. I'm not gonna like give away the plot and all of that, but
give us like a
in one
level.
part,
Give us like a high level of what the movie's about.
She goes to work at a social media company called The Circle, and it's basically like Google and Facebook and all of these things combined. And so I'm not going to tell you the plot as far as like her working there, but at one point, I don't remember if he actually dies, but they're trying to locate her friend, this guy, because they think that she should date this guy. And so they track him down using social media, and the whole process of them tracking him down was like exactly what happened with the Gabby Petito case. I don't know if you guys remember that, where they basically found this missing girl who I think her boyfriend was the one that killed her when they were on a road trip through social media. Through
you
TikTok.
guys had to have seen them.
Yeah. I'm remembering it now.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway,
But it was like paralleled to the movie. It was so creepy to watch it play out in real time because I had just seen that after watching the movie. You guys have to watch it. It's a good one.
Did the movie come out before or after
The Circle with Emma Watson from Harry Potter.
Oh,
what was that?
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm gonna watch it because I really like Emma Watson. But
I'm right.
Did the movie come out before or after the Gabby case?
Yeah, before.
Okay, so it was like predictive programming, right? So they probably watched the movie and was like, "Oh, we can track this girl using all this stuff."
I mean, I don't think people intended it to be like that. It just like happened that way. But it was creepy.
Oh, by the way, shout out to LA Hood Life. He just joined. LA Hood Life posts incredible footage from around Los Angeles, all the craziness happening. So definitely follow him if you want to get the real scoop and the pulse of what's happening here in Los Angeles, because he posts some crazy things. And unfortunately, the things I see when I walk out of my house. So, but to other people, it's not normal.
Seems like endless content there.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously.
How
do you guys ever wish
handle that?
What was that?
How do you handle that living in the heart of LA?
Well, I was born here, so I'm very used to it. But I do see people. It makes me laugh, but I feel sad as well, because if you have to think, Hollywood is a place where like 99.99% of the world always wants to come, right? That's like, oh, I want to go to Hollywood, especially if you're from another country. So you spend all this time, spend all this money saving up all these plans. You look at all the guidebooks, you're watching all the movies, you see all the celebrities on the Walk of Fame. You buy your flight, which is expensive. You buy your hotel or Airbnb, which are very expensive. You come and you wear your best outfit to Hollywood Boulevard because that's what you see in the movies. And then I see them. And then I see their eyes when they're looking around Hollywood Boulevard, the Walk of Fame. And you have guys who are smoking crack to the left. You have people defecating on the right. You have just this crazy stuff happening. It's just dirty. And then I look at their eyes, and their eyes look so like disheartened. Like, what in the hell is going on? This is not what I've been dreaming about my whole life. I don't see Tom Cruise. I see this guy crapping on himself. I don't see, Demi Moore or whoever. And then in my head, I'm like, go to Beverly Hills. Just go to West Hollywood, and that's the nicer part.
Yeah.
But yeah. But as far as me, I'm used to it. It's nothing new under the sun.
How do you fix this, Fabian? How do you think? How do you get back to what Hollywood Boulevard used to be?
We got to change the government first of all. Change the government. So one of the biggest issues, and listen, it's not just Hollywood that has issues with like panhandling and all these people. It's every big city. But the reason it happens here is because you have tourists. So if you're homeless, the one thing you need, money, right? Money and food. And if there's always tourists around here, you're going to go to where the money's at. So that's one of the problems. It's like a never-ending problem. But the other part is just housing is just so insane around here. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like I pay more than most people's mortgages around the entire country for rent here in Hollywood.
The rent.
So yeah, if I told you what I paid, you would you put your hand because it's but it is what it is, I guess.
Come to Texas, get yourself a castle. Forget Hollywood.
Yeah.
Go to Florida, get yourself a castle.
Yeah,
Is
it's very true.
is it true, like what we always hear is that like that's all centered in these big cities? Like if you go outside of the big cities, is it better or is it still pretty much the same thing, just not in a city?
Well, the problem with Los Angeles is it's a massive city. There's 11 million people in the city of Los Angeles. That's the same population as all of Sweden, just in the city of LA. LA County has about I think like 18 million people or 22 million, something like that. Like it's
Wow.
absolutely massive.
Wow.
But you do have
It kind of
places
doesn't
where
matter where you go anymore, though. Like San Bernardino, Riverside, Corona, it's all just like gross now. Just homeless everywhere. It's all gross
Yeah.
now.
But
Yeah.
Unless you live in like the really expensive areas like Newport Beach, that sort of thing. It's not an ideal place to live.
But what about those
Yeah.
like the suburb areas, like way outside of the cities that vote?
you could definitely
Very
find
nice.
places like
Depends.
Burbank is very nice. It
Mhm.
doesn't have a lot of homeless people, right? Places that are more suburban type, where a homeless person wouldn't do anything there because there's nothing to do. There's no one who's going to give them money. It's all locals, right? In those places, yeah, they don't go.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting when you think about like the fact that because it's a tighter knit community, you don't have homeless people really there. Homeless people exist on the fringes of those neighborhoods where there's like a freeway or a liquor store, right? But they're never around people's homes unless you live in apartment buildings, right? But then it's not yours, you just pay rent there. But if it's your home, you take pride and you're like, no, I'm not gonna have homeless people in front of my house. Now it does happen in certain places, but they're not in front of the homes, they're in front of a public place that happens to be next to the homes. So
It reminds me a lot of like where I live. I live in the suburbs of Atlanta. It's like maybe 30 minutes outside of Atlanta. And Atlanta's big. It's like 6 million people live in metro Atlanta area. And it's awful what's happened to Atlanta. But the suburb areas, they're still fine still. You know what I mean? And it seems like it's because of the communities. And when you were talking about sorry, that's my dog trying to get in. When you were talking about like life in the city and whatnot, I mean, I remember like couple months ago, I was in Atlanta, and around midnight or so, I went to the gas station, and there's cops, literally cops guarding the gas station. And you would never see that up here in the suburbs. And that's only 30, 35 minutes apart from each other. So I was wondering if that's the same case for California. It seems like that's the same case for almost all the
You guys
states
have
now.
Yeah,
cops in Atlanta? We don't have any cops in Seattle. Like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. I know exactly the kind of like gas station that you're describing because they're all over Seattle. I don't necessarily go into Seattle that much, but when I do, I'm always like hyper aware if I ever have to go get gas or go to a gas station or something like that, because it is just like the sketchiest place of all time. So Seattle, they need like 900 police officers just to get back to where they were before the defund police. But check this out. Before the BLM riots, they had a third of the amount that Boston had. And Boston's a smaller place than Seattle. So they are like wildly understaffed. So the fact that you even have police officers like patrolling the gas stations is like kind of a luxury.
So actually, my cousin, he's a California Highway Patrol. So basically, those are police officers, but they have jurisdiction across the entire state of California. He was texting me today, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "I love what you guys are doing." And he literally said this. This is this morning. He says, "It's good to have people like you on our side. We're getting slammed out here on the streets." So, and he was in Afghanistan. He was a Marine in Afghanistan. So
Holy
for
moly.
him to say that they're getting slammed here on the streets, and he works the SoCal area as well, the Los Angeles area. I can only imagine how bad things are getting. If they, he saw crazy combat in Afghanistan, and he's saying it's getting really bad here. It's crazy. Of course, nobody wants to be cops. You can't do anything. Your hands are literally tied.
It's bad when Democrats start to walk back their own rhetoric and their own slogans. When they were chanting the hardest defund the police after they saw what that's like on during, like, they chanted that for a while, and then the election happened. Obama, there's like a whole like leak of it. Obama was on the DNC conference, and he was like, "Y'all need to shut up with this defund the police stuff. I mean, it's the stupidest thing that there is." And I mean, are you kidding me? You guys literally chanted that for a while, and if you guys realize, that's when they started to say, "Oh, we never said defund the police. That's actually the MAGA crowd. The MAGA Republicans want to defund the police, defund the FBI." I'm like, I'm with you, defunding the FBI. Finally, we agree on something, but we never said defund the police. And yeah, it's just, that's how bad things are, is that Democrats are walking back their own talking points.
Yeah, well, Brianna doesn't have that problem over in Texas because everyone's strapped in Texas. Everyone has guns.
Yes, it is cool. You're like walking into like
society.
You're like walking into the gas station or the grocery store, and people have guns, just like chilling. It's so cool.
That's how that in Georgia here is the same thing. It's a carry state, so I mean, it's literally hard to go a full day without seeing somebody carrying, and it's great.
It makes me feel safer because like some like hoodlum could have a gun, but there's always some cowboy around who has a gun too.
Yeah. My sister lives in Oklahoma, and I visited her when I was riding my bicycle. Anyway, her boyfriend at the time, he it's obviously open carry state, and I started laughing really hard because we were at this place eating outside. And he goes, Mr. Garcia, he's like, "Would you mind grabbing me a cup of water when you go inside?" I'm like, "Oh, you want to come in with me?" He's like, "No, sir, I cannot, because there's a sign on the door that says no guns inside." So he like respected the sign, and he would not enter the establishment. And I looked at him like, "Wow, man, you got some morals on you. Like that's pretty cool." He was so polite, and I'm like
that. So I'm sorry, what were you gonna say, Fabian?
No, I was done.
I was gonna say, I mean, and they're worried about people like that. You know what I mean? They're like, "Oh, we need to take everybody's guns away." All right, let's be honest. I mean, 99.9999999% of people that own guns legally are people like you just explained, right? It's the people who legally get guns, who aren't able to really own guns, those are the problem that we're having essentially. So it's crazy. It's crazy how they go after these law-abiding citizens.
Yeah.
So in Seattle, this is a really different place up here because if you even think about owning a gun, they'll come and knock on your door and say, "Why are you thinking that? Like, why would you need to own a gun in Seattle?" Like, they're so leftist and liberal. They're like, "Okay, but here's the weird thing. It's also an open carry state. Washington is right, and so most of the people live in Seattle." And like the only people that you really see having guns are the cops, like all two of them that are there. But then the rest of the state is super red. Like if you drive on the I-90 from Seattle to Spokane, you'll see Trump signs. You'll see like the "where we go one, we go all" signs. Like if you go into the country, right, you're gonna see some crazy stuff. It's kind of a weird state, and California is like that a little bit too. I've done a couple road trips through California, and you go north on the I-5, and you get out of like you get past like Santa Barbara, and then you start seeing like Trump signs on the highway, and you just get like fired up because you're like not everyone in the state is retarded. Not everyone in the state is is a gay blue-haired liberal faggot that lives in Hollywood. Just to use all the words.
Gentry, we got what is up with those two cities up there, Portland and Seattle? I mean, you said it perfectly. It's like it feels like it's not only not part of this country. It doesn't seem like it's on this earth. Honestly, it seems like they're living their own utopian, wannabe utopian, crazy.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the amount of rain that they get. Like I lived in Washington State for 2 years, and it's like sometimes you don't see the sun for like a week or whatever. So Nirvana came from the Seattle area, and that was grunge. That was very depressing rock, whereas 80s rock was just glam rock, like look at me, like ripping and shredding. And then you had all these people from this super like rainy area talking about depression and stuff. It happens. It's a real thing. I go to Sweden all the time, and there sometimes there's no sun for like a month. Like literally the sun does not come up. You're living in complete darkness. So there is something that has to do with the weather. Because if you look at like, even if it's too hot, places that are too hot have increased violence because people just get frustrated. Like, leave me alone, like get away from me. So maybe that's why they're all weird over there. And I mean, I don't know how Gentry turned on normal, but maybe he got too much sun when he was young.
Everyone's
so I was
depleted.
homeschooled, which really, really, really helped. But the really interesting thing, I was homeschooled.
Me too.
That's awesome. So the really interesting thing about Seattle and Portland is that they're both port cities, right? So they were both built as like a huge mecca of the marketplace, right? Business was happening there. So during the when the settlers came over, like on the Oregon Trail, what was really interesting is that the people who wanted to be religious went up to Seattle, and the people who wanted to be more free thinking went to Portland. And I don't know when it switched to have Seattle be this like crazy left-leaning place, but I think it probably had to do in the 60s or the 70s when Bill Gates Sr., he became a really, really prominent lawyer. And then Bill Gates Jr., he went and started Microsoft, and then he basically like exported all of this like depopulation agenda. It's really interesting if you go look up Bill Gates Sr., he was like a really big proponent of Planned Parenthood back in the day. He was really pushing for it, this kind of atheistic worldview. If you go,
by the way, sorry, we got a crazy in the comments. He said he stopped them from he stopped them from using nukes yesterday. Thanks, Carlos. You saved the world, boy. Keep stopping them, man.
Yeah, keep stopping the nukes, dude.
Yeah, bro.
I appreciate you.
I got your back, man. I'll send you $1 here and there.
But like today we have, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Bill Gates phenomenon, right? Because we had this guy create a whole bunch of billionaires and millionaires up in the Seattle area, and then they go and like invest in Starbucks, and they go start Expedia, and they go be investors in Amazon, and then
Thanks, Carlos.
you know, Boeing's up here too, and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of crazy the amount of like wokeness that we export. I don't think it's necessarily the same as San Francisco, but it's really crazy. What's also really interesting up here too is that it's a really academic place. So people just think that they're smarter than everyone else because they went to like Princeton or Harvard or Yale. Like you'll see these people come back to this area, and then if you don't go to like Stanford or one of these other like, you know, pseudo Ivy League schools, they won't necessarily take you seriously, which is a huge bummer.
Man, I wish I could bring Carlos on. That'd be wild.
Mhm.
I want to know about the nukes. I'm very curious now.
About
Sorry,
this.
But yeah, so basically, Gentry, you just get too much rain, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And people
much.
sit
Yeah.
behind computers too much. It's like geek
Oh
culture
my
there.
gosh. Yeah. So here's a really interesting thing. You'll see people who look like slobs, and then they'll get into their like $400,000 car and drive away. Like it's nothing like the East Coast where like you can kind of tell money. So here's a really interesting story. I went to a car show back in the day, and there was this like one of a kind Enzo Ferrari type deal there, and I was looking at it, and this guy walked up to me. He was probably like 6 foot, had this like crazy dad bod, and he was wearing sweats, right? He just looked like a normal dad. And so he was telling me about this car, and he seemed to know a lot about it. And then he walked away, and then someone came up to me and was like, "Do you know who you were just talking to? You were talking to like the number 10 from Microsoft." I was like, "I had no idea. Like, what the heck?" This guy was like a billionaire, and he looked like a friggin' slob. But you're 100% right. People are just in front of their computers coding all day. They're chugging energy drinks. They're unhealthy. They're just live this sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah. That's the thing I miss about California. Like everyone I talk to who's left California, like even though people are super Democrat, people are happier there because you have sun and you have nature and yeah, different culture.
Well, there's always something to do. I mean, there is something to be said about like having a melting pot of ideas and different people.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you do not get from, you know, typically smaller cities. That's not to say it doesn't exist.
Oh, I'm living that right now. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have the mental stimulation from being online
Yeah.
and creativity, and you think about things and you research things. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the social aspect, the social life, like,
Mhm.
I mean, there's something happening every single night here. So
Yeah.
there is that aspect of it, you know, but there's also the aspect where everyone's just trying to social ladder climb
Mhm.
over everyone else. Right. And I worked in Hollywood nightlife for 9 years. So like I get it. And I was born here, so I really get it. But you know, that's why universities, that's why it sucks that the left has ruined universities, because it was such a great place to get people who had an open mind and who were curious about how the world works and how to make it better. They would get around it, and they would coalesce around universities. And that's where a lot of the great speakers would go, right? Orators, and you would talk about things and people would pick up on your ideas and then make it into better things. Also worse things like we see with the neo-Marxist stuff. But yeah, so having a marketplace of ideas is really like a town square, a public square is really important.
Mhm.
That's why I like how Elon Musk calls X the world's, like he calls it the town square for everybody,
Mhm.
because that's where
Yeah.
ideas go to. And then I mean, we see what happened. We've only had X be free for a year and a half now, and look at how much the world has changed. There's been an onslaught of 50 years of neo-Marxism that's been infiltrated everywhere, and with just 1.5 years of people, number one, figuring out what the hell's going on, and then saying, nope, that's wrong, and here's why, they're already losing the
Mhm.
battle. So imagine if we have another year and a half or 2 years of X being free, how many people will actually be awoken or awakened, whatever you want to call them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Imagine
Yeah,
if
'cause, like,
TikTok and Instagram were
yeah,
free too. It'd be
for real.
unstoppable.
So
I wouldn't be shadow banned anymore, that's for sure. By the way,
so
sorry, I've never been to shadow banned in my life. Like in my life, Instagram will show my post to like 200 people. I'm not even kidding you, like max. I think it's getting better though. My story views are starting to go back up. So
that's awesome. So to to talk a little bit about the melting pot of ideas that you're talking about in a city right now, especially in cities like Seattle and a lot of these other big cities, it's turned into diversity of skin color, but not diversity of thought, because every single person tries to think the same way. And if they don't, I mean, it's really a race to the bottom, because we've seen recently that people are trying to cancel other people for not being woke enough.
Yeah. Well, this is a nihilistic ideology, and they're going to eat themselves. They're going to literally kill themselves by, or not literally, but figuratively kill themselves, because it's all levels of hierarchy and oppression, right? I think we were talking about this a while ago, but in the book Cynical Theories by Judith Pluckrose and James Lindsay,
Mm-hmm.
they talk about like ableism, right? And like disableism. So if you have an able body, you're an oppressor now. And if you have a disability, then you're the oppressed. So on their hierarchy, you're higher. So how bad do you want to have recognition from people, and how disabled do you want to be to get that recognition? Because at some point you're going to be a non-functioning human, and that will be the utmost ability to bestow praise on you because of how oppressed
Mm-hmm.
you are. But then you're not a fully functioning human. So where, I mean, how do you win in that game? There is no winning.
Right. Well, even the story that we brought up earlier. What?
I tweeted about that. What was it, like yesterday? Because like I'm supposed to be oppressed because I'm a female. Obviously, I'm a victim, but I have white privilege. So do those things like cancel each other out? Like where do I sit on the?
If you were a
hierarchy of
lesbian,
oppression?
white female, you would have more oppression than a regular white female.
Yeah, that's
So dumb.
like, I wasn't very good at like higher level math, like calculus, so I don't know if I can really get this equation.
Well, technically, you would be more oppressed because you have a disability.
Because I'm retarded.
You couldn't do math.
So
Because I'm
then, so
dyslexic.
now the government has to take care of you even more because you have more oppression.
Yeah.
Oh heck
So,
yeah! Where's that government cheese? I haven't been getting it yet. Come on, government! Can you imagine if I was
Someone
just
left
like,
a comment about Texas, because there's this video that's going around. I don't know if you guys have seen it, about the border, and then this guy like drove down to the border. You know what I'm talking about? And he's like filming spots that look like they're open, and he's like, "Oh, it's all a show." You haven't seen it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'll have to
conservatives
send it to you guys. It's like
Texas.
viral right now. And
It's
he's
wide
like alleging that
open.
this video alleges that the border is like a manufactured crisis. But if you watch the video, you can see the razor wire is like down further, and the point of entry where they're actually crossing over is way further down. So they're not coming through those particular gates that he's filming, but the video makes it look like we're all just lying about the border crisis. And this is supposed to be like some patriot putting this video out saying that we're hysterical over nothing. But the video itself it's a lie. Like the guy doesn't live down there. He just like traveled down there to take the video. I'm not calling him a liar, but the video itself is a lie. Like it's not true, because the point of entry is like way further down where he's not filming.
So basically, his logic is, look at my video, and because I shot this one thing at this one time in this one place, everything else is a lie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Interesting
now
logic
everyone's
there.
in my
Okay.
comment section, like blowing up my comment section on my border video, like, oh, you're just stoking the fire and there's no border crisis. So
I'll just be like, okay, cool. Just go down there and figure it out yourself. Easy.
yeah. Yeah.
It's very easy. Take one day off work.
Yeah.
Instead of commenting on this 100 times, go drive down there. Take a drive. It'll be good. Get out in nature.
Yeah.
Get a refresh and go see the border.
Yeah,
You know,
Go
very
walk down
easy.
to the razor wire yourself. Yeah.
I've said this so many times
But-
too, because
But
like
we're
people
going to
will,
get kicked off in a few minutes because it's coming up on an
Okay.
hour.
one last thought, and then we'll hop off here. So I've said this so many times though, is like my job is to post things so that you then can go research it. I don't want to be your teacher. I'm gonna post stuff to point you in the right direction, and post things that I think are connecting the dots. But I don't want to like sit there and hold your hands on everything. Like I don't want to do that. There's other people that do that, and it's awesome. But I just like, go figure it out yourself. Anyway, guys, we are running out of time. We're about to get kicked off here. Follow the Breakaway page. We just hit 5,000 followers today, which is unbelievable. We're so excited about that. Follow Fabian, follow Brianna, follow all of us from Breakaway. We're doing some really big things, and we got some super exciting projects that are going to break